Building Information Modeling, or BIM for short, is a wonderful tool to create great architecture. Unfortunately, many might believe that BIM is out of their reach. This is because adapting from 2D drafting to BIM might seem time-consuming and costly. Also, it seems that BIM means a whole new workflow and methods which you need to learn from scratch, and the new requirements and legislations may seem too complicated to follow. Our mission behind ARCHLine is to open a gateway to BIM. ARCHLine makes the transition from 2D drafting to BIM step by step. It takes you from 2D to 3D modeling and introduces BIM parameters to your workflow. Sharing your projects with other professionals is effortless. The software makes sure that you can use your already existing CAD skills, files and projects to stay competitive. The gate is now open for new challenges and previously unavailable projects. ARCHLine is an out-of-the-box IFC-certified BIM software. No extra plugins are needed to complete your project because your design will contain everything in a single file. You will work together with other parties of the building industry seamlessly. Avoid misunderstandings. Use real products. Collaborate better than before. BIM is quickly becoming the standard. Make sure you are there with ARCHLine.
Hello and welcome to the ARCHLine webinar, Designing a Building, a Fundamental Elementary Course. My name is Zoltán Tóth. Over here is our resident architect, Mr. Illés Pap.
Hello there.
This is the first part of our 5-parter Gateway to BIM webinar series. The main reason why we have this webinar series in the first place is because we understand that there's still a considerable fear from BIM when it comes to everyday projects and everyday architects and engineers. Now the thing is that the question is always the same when people ask us what the software does. They always want to know how certain very simple everyday tasks could be performed with the software. So instead of making this kind of static videos, we decided to make a webinar series where we take one project, which is in this case a 2-story family dwelling, and we are going to track the whole workflow. Today we are just going to focus on how to create very simple shapes, architectural elements, and do some kind of basic documentation and visual design tasks. But in the long run, as the show is going to progress with the other installments, we are going to look at how to use external architectural data, geodetic surveys, for instance,
how to work with IFC files.
That's right, how to collaborate with other software platforms, how to get architectural data out of the system, some basic elements of visual design, and something more elaborate when it comes to rendering, and eventually we talk about the everyday benefits of using BIM for a project like this one, for instance.
Yeah.
Now, before we dig into this show, I have to remind you that you can ask your questions on the right-hand side, right next to me, where we are going to look at these questions at the end, and we are attempting to give answers to all of them. Also, I know that some of you might be familiar with ARCHLine, maybe you are already using this software, but for those of you who are newcomers, let's talk about what this software actually is. So what we always say about ARCHLine is this is a 3-in-1 design software. 3 being architecture, interior design, and furniture manufacture. Naturally, during these 5 webinars, we are going to look at the architectural side of things. That being said, we like to think at ARCHLine as an intuitive BIM design software, but there's a very important point here. It's based on CAD tools that you already know. This doesn't mean that you already have to know CAD, so it doesn't mean that you have to know these things, because we are going to teach you everything you need to know. But this means simply is that if you already have some knowledge on layers and how to draw the exact measurements, you are going to be able to utilize that knowledge.
Yeah, it will shorten the learning curve, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
One very special thing about the software, which you find would be very useful for managing your projects, is that every documentation is in one file. This is not really special for our project, it's special for BIM in general. So everything, all the sections, elevations, all the calculations are going to be stored in one file, which makes your work much easier to handle and makes collaboration with other parties a breeze, I would say. Especially when it comes to the collaborational tools. We already mentioned the IFC export and import formats, which is, I'm sure that you heard, is the de facto mean of communication of the BIM workflow. So that means that if you have this file format, you are able to communicate your ideas to other designers back and forth. DWG is obviously also supported, and so is the RVT file format, but we are going to talk about this later in detail.
Yeah, well, actually, ARCHLine is intentionally designed to be open as much as possible.
That's right.
So we support several file formats. We will actually talk about these in a later session a little bit more detailed. But today I will show you some basic tools how you can start with when you have actually something like a drawing. I actually prepared a layout here. I will use those data, but we will also cover how you can import drawings and how you can process them.
So one of the ideas behind ARCHLine is that it is supposed to give you a smooth transition from two-dimensional drafting and two-dimensional modeling to three-dimensional and eventually BIM. It shows you all the things you have to do in order to get to the BIM level. We are going to talk about that in a later session. And one thing that I think we can take great pride in is that we have a lot of training materials, just like this show. So that's all you need to know about ARCHLine at this point. Let's talk about something what we are working towards. So when it comes to making a project, it's very important to sell your design, right?
Yeah.
So you have to communicate your ideas in a way that you can amaze your clients, and that means that the software is also needs to be very proficient in rendered images. Now, when it comes to rendering, there are two ways to proceed, and I'm just going to fire up the slideshow, so just to give you an idea of what we are working towards. So ARCHLine has a built-in rendering engine, which is licensed from the company Redway. But we also have connection to external rendering engines. Can you mention a few examples?
For example, if you already have Atlantis, you can directly import your model to Atlantis. Cinema 4D is also supported. So if you already have something that you used to use with the previous solution that you had, you can export your model into that, and with a little bit of tuning, you will be able to process the ARCHLine.XP data and create amazing, stunning visuals, even if you work with third-party solutions.
So that means that there are two ways you can get a glimpse at the final product within our integrated render, and you can also push it into another software if you already have that. So one thing that we always find very important with ARCHLine is that we want to work together with other software products as opposed to doing everything in our environment.
Yeah,
so
that's
if you
right.
have other softwares, you will see that when it comes to software products such as AutoCAD or SketchUp, we try our best to integrate with them and work together with them. So let's see what we have on our agenda right now. So let's first talk about how to create very simple drawings, how to put together an architectural model, and how do you go about creating a building. Obviously based on this, what you have here in front of you.
And I think we also should talk a little bit about the interface as well.
Oh, definitely.
Because I'm sure some of you watching our show might not be that much familiar with the interface. Now, as we share the screen, you will see that actually the interface is quite similar to all other similar solutions. We also have the ribbon bar at the top of the screen. We also have the classic sidebars. We have the bottom bar, and we have the workspace. That's in terms of these simple areas of the interface, we are pretty much similar to anyone else. So that's when you mention that if you already know a solution, you will have a little bit of an advantage that you can actually use, because you know where to look at the tools, where to find them. The reason why we also have these is not just that we would like to position ourselves to be an easy to learn CAD software, which we really do, I believe. We are, at least users like to claim that. But we also find that building up an interface like this makes it easier to find tools. Like, for example, let's just mention, I know that there is a text tool somewhere in ARCHLine, which I can actually easily find. It's in the drafting, and there's a text tool.
Supposing that you don't know where to look.
But if I don't know where the text tool is, I can just click here and type text, for example, and wait a little bit, and the software will tell me where that tool is. So if you watch any of our tutorials, there might be a few of them a bit outdated, but if you find a command that you know that ARCHLine has that tool, you just go there and find that easily. So it's very handy thing. You can actually then start the text tool from here and start typing the text, for example, or you can just simply learn that it's actually in drafting and text, and then you just use this tool. Mm-hmm. Other than that, the interface features several tabs of these ribbons. The one that we see now is the view, but basically you will see the building, the interior, drafting dimension. We will cover a few of them today. We will first work with the building tools. At the left-hand side, you can see the so-called design center. That's kind of a collector hub of objects that you download, and it's actually a source of objects that you can download from online. We will cover that as well a little bit. Not to mention, other than that, just there is the 3D warehouse direct connection, which is an easy access to a plethora of objects that you can download from online easily. And also at the bottom you can see this is the so-called status bar. We will work with this actually. Here you can find your floors. Here you can find several tools like the north direction, and also some hint that what you should do here. And we have this is the so-called navigation bar, which helps you to navigate through your project. I will just show you two examples. One is that, of course, you can zoom in and out of the 2D drawing. That's actually done by the wheel. You just scroll up and scroll down, and that's zoom in and zoom out. And if you hold the mouse wheel and keep it holding and move your mouse, that's panning. That's how you move your drawing around. And third and last thing for now, that you can actually double wheel click, and this will actually zoom in, fit it to the drawing area, so you will see everything. So even if you are zoomed in and you double click with the mouse wheel, it will actually bring it back to full zoom.
One last thing to add here to the interface before we proceed is that when I talked about BIM, I mentioned that everything is in one file, and what's better to illustrate that than our project navigator, where everything what you have done is collected into this kind of tree structure. So you don't have to really care about storing these drawings in designated folders. The software does that for you, and also you see that things can be found here which you haven't even generated. Elevations, for instance, are notorious of that.
I will do that later.
Yes, we will do that. Let's not jump too much forward with this. Let's talk about where it all begins. So how do we create very basic drawings?
Well, actually, if you would like to start working with the drawing, you can either load a paper-based scan, for example. That's all these things you can find in the import. So you should go to File, and you should use the import tool and find a format that you have your files in. We will cover this, I believe, in the following
next
section.
Is going to be about.
But if you have nothing, just a plain white paper, then what you will do, you will just go and start up ARCHLine. You will see a dialog coming up similar like this, and then you will click here and open up a new project, and then you can fill up the basic BIM informations about this building, like the location. You can determine where this building will be on Earth. You can set up the name, the designer's name, the project name, and all this information. And actually at the end, if you fill these up, you can reuse these data. You can semi-auto-fill the title box as well at the end. I will show you it at the documentation tutorial or workshop, which we will do in a later session. So now you can actually just skip it whenever you would like to set up this data. You will be able to find it in File, BIM, and Project Parameters. That's the same place, and then you can start working. So either you fill it up or not, you can just start working with the tools. Now, if you are about to draft a building, you will likely start with the walls, or sometimes you will start with drafting items like 2D. I don't know. You just would like to set up a grid or something like that. In that case, you will start with the drafting. But other than that, you will start with the wall tool. Whenever you start with a tool, any of these, the software will use the current default settings. Now, if I start the wall tool, I can see that the current default setting is that what we call the one-layered 38 wide wall. Now, we are working in meters, so that means this wall will be 0.38 meters, 38 centimeters wide. Its thickness is what you can see here as a number. And then when you would like to create something with that, you start the tool, select this, and click somewhere and move your mouse. And I'm not holding down the mouse wheel, I'm just moving the mouse. So you don't have to keep pushing and dragging the mouse cursor. You just release it and move your mouse somewhere, and then either you type the distance that you know, or you just click somewhere, and then you will have the 2D and the 3D wall automatically. So this is how you can create this here. Also, if you would like to create something, just as I mentioned, that I know that this wall will be to the right and it's about, I don't know, 1.5 meters, and I'm just start typing 1.5. It actually depends on how the program settings are, but by default it accepts the dot as well. So you just type the distance and then you just keep drawing the walls. Whenever you would like to terminate a command, that now I'm about to do something else, so I would like to skip drawing walls, I just hit escape and then the software goes back to the default settings.
Right click works as well sometimes.
Yes. Right click sometimes means enter. It depends on the command itself, but escape always means that you would like to escape that command and you don't want to do anything with that. So this is how you can set up a simple layout of literally all sort of drawings. But if I would like to sketch this drawing that I have here, I actually have a building drawing, a printed copy of a building that I would like to process, then I can do that as well. Or this could be something that I went on site and I would like to, just process the values that I measured at the survey. So either way, I can just start working with these. Now, actually, to be able to remove these two walls, it was just a introductory sketch here. I can either undo these steps. Keep that in mind that undo is not infinite. Undo is only 32 steps, so don't rely on that too much. But at least 32 steps you can go back and you can just undo these two steps as well. But also, if you would like to, you can erase these. You can just select the walls and then you can erase these. Later we will talk about this selection a little bit more, so I just keep that for later. And now I just undid these two walls and then I start working with the walls. So let's say I would like to draw a wall, and I know that its distance was, its length, it was 11.9 meters. Now keep that in mind that now what you draw, the wall itself is created by its blue line, that's the reference line. And now based on my drawing, I would like to actually draft the top line of this wall.
So you want to have the line on the other side?
Yeah, I would like to move it to the other side. So there are two ways to do that when you work with the wall tool. One way is that, as you can see at the right hand side, these sub commands appear. So you can just click here and use the right side option. Or other than that, you can actually use the F5 key. It's actually it's cycling through these reference lines, or in some case reference points later. So you just hit F5 and you move your mouse and you're gone back to the initial status. Now I hit F5 again and hold my mouse, move a little bit. Now I'm at the center. F5, move the mouse, now at the bottom. So this way you can cycle through, and this is very handy because you can do this all along. When you draw continuously, you can just cycle through this, because layouts are sometimes pretty complex, and
so
it's necessary
you have
to do.
Toggle between them pretty fast.
Yes, that's right. So let me just quickly sketch this, and I'll let you talk about other possibilities how you can draft to the layouts or actually drawings. Okay.
One thing that you skipped in the beginning, and we are going to cover that later on, is that on the left hand side, you remember that Elias mentioned that was one. You can continue, and I'll cover this. So you can choose the wall type you want to work with. Now, this is very important, that you can set up different styles. We will talk about how that works, but only thing you have to know at this point is that this is not an infinite list, of course. You can choose from the presets, but you can make your own as well.
Yeah.
This could be composite walls, different layers, structures, different height values. So that all depends on what you actually want to work with. But these are the things that you can set up, and most importantly, you can carry this to another computer if you want to change your workstation. One thing the reason why you stopped here is that there's a very important thing that we have to illustrate, which is very familiar for CAD users. If you want to finish your drawing, you can obviously add the number if you know that, but if you don't know that, you can copy the nodes, you can snap to nodes what you see on the drawing. So what happens now is that we are snapping to the wall which is just below this one, and we just click and we're done with that. And we can finish the drawing like that, but we can also hit an enter and to close the polygon, right?
Yeah, well, actually, if I just would hit enter here, I wouldn't have this wall here. And the reason I did not connect these two, that sometimes you will create drawing parts that either intentionally or unintentionally they're not connected. Whenever you do that and you would like to, and you change your mind and you would like to click them and connect them later, you should just use these two commands. This is the L connection and the T connection. This works very well when you would like to connect these two items. Now, talking about this layout, this is kind of a basic layout of ARCHLine, and I think it's very handy. You can work with this split screen view and you can see what happens on the 2D, and parallelly you can follow the changes in the 3D. And also, if you like to swap the drawings in this split layout, you should use this tool here. This is the magnify window tool. If I click into the 3D, making it active, it's blue now, it's the active drawing, and I click here, then ARCHLine swaps the drawing. So if I do it again, I click here and I swap the drawings. So this is how you swap the drawings, the active drawings. You can actually enlarge this whole drawing by clicking here and making it full screen. And then you can use it in a full screen style using only the project navigator, navigate through the contents. But at any time, if you'd like to go back to the split screen view, you should just use this, and then you are back to the default layout.
The main reason why you would use parallel to each other, the 2D and the 3D, is because most things you can do in either. There are some actions which are more convenient in any of these viewports, but usually you would use two of them simultaneously.
Yes. So now I will use the 3D layout to control what happens in the 2D, to see the changes. And before I do that, let me just quickly tell you one more difference here in the 3D compared to the 2D, how you can handle it. Because of course you can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can pan this content, and of course you can rotate it. Now if you would like to rotate this, you would like to orbit around your model, then you should hold the shift key and the mouse wheel and move the mouse. So this is how you, I'm holding the shift key and the mouse wheel and moving the mouse. This is how you can rotate the model freely all around. And then again, you can just double click with the mouse wheel to make it, appear fitting the screen. So I just made a new layout, and then now I will place a few other details like partition walls and so on. And that, just as you mentioned, now we've worked with default styles, but you can create your own style. I will work with this 30 wide wall. I create this partition wall here, which is actually a load bearing wall. I actually create another wall, which is this one here. Let's say I would like to create something that appears at a certain distance, but if I would like to extend this drawing, I actually forgot something. There is this tool which you can use to add inserts or add-ons to this layout. And actually on my drawing there is a detail which is with a width of 1.8 and the depth of 1 meter. I can change this, and when I say OK, I can place it over the wall. See, now it's important that when you hold your mouse at a point where it is just making no sense to place this shape, because it's not in a wall, then you will see this exclamation mark. Just don't worry, that means that you cannot do that here. But if you move your mouse over the wall, then you can just move it somewhere. And again, here you can use the F5 key to cycle through the top point, the center point, and the bottom point, as you can see here. So now I know that this distance is 2.3. I type it, and now I have that. Now it's actually a great guideline. I will have a staircase here, so now I can use it to create a partition wall, and I just create it here. And I will also create a partition wall here. And now again, I need to cycle through
you need to
these.
Push it to the other side, and
not to the center,
in the middle.
but to this one. And again, I just keep my mouse here a little bit, and then I click here and I move the mouse here, and that either again I type the distance, or I just literally graphically draw the walls themselves. Now if I would like to create a few partition walls here, I can either do it like this here, and I'm actually sketching the layout itself, or I can just say that, well, okay, this is something, well, let me just show you something. I forgot to mention that you can also lock the direction. So now I move my mouse to the right hand side, and if I just hold the shift key and then I move the mouse a little bit, see, now the direction is locked. It's similar to what you mentioned at the beginning, but this way you don't have to move your mouse first there and then use it. You can just simply hold this down and then you can just refer to a point that exists somewhere else.
Horizontally and vertically as well.
Yes, that's right. So why I created this so quickly is that I know the distance between these two walls. There is a wall distance from here to here, which is 2.35 on my drawing. So I just click here and I type 2.35.
So what happens here is that you select one wall first, hit Control and select the other wall, and
yes.
then you are able to get access to this vector where you can add in the distance between the two.
Yes, that's right. Actually, we can also talk about the selection a little bit, how selection works, because
now we have a few things to work with. So how do we manage them?
Yeah, well, actually, selection is pretty basic. You just literally click on the item and it gets selected. If you click on another item, that other item gets selected. But if you would like to select two items, as you mentioned, you can hold the Control key and click on the second item to add it to the selection, and then all others will be added automatically. Now, it's important that if you select something first, it will be highlighted with a different color. That means that was the first selected item. Why is that important? It's important because based on that information, you can change the distance between the first item and the rest of the selection.
So the first always stays where it is, right?
Yes. Or you can just change the direction. So you can make the other one to be the first selected or the highlighted one. So you can do it the other way around. So if I would like to change this as well, it's 2.1. I just click first on this, Control click on the second one, and I just type 2.1 and enter, and that's it. Now, pretty much the same way, you can actually select partition walls and make them change for any sort of reason. Or if I would like to, for example, change the color or the material of the exterior walls, I would like to use something like a stone pattern. I can click here and Control click and keep clicking and adding all these things, but actually there's a much more sophisticated way if you know that all these items share a common property, and that common property is their thickness.
For instance, yes.
So in that case, you can use the, there is this edit tool and there's this selection bar here and with all sort of selection items, and there is one with the by properties. If you click there, you will find a property which is the wall width, and then you can tell the software, please select everything that shares the wall width.
So it should be 0.38 because we have
0.38, and then everything is selected.
Supposedly we don't want to have this one in the middle selected, so how do we get rid of this?
In that case, again, you can just use the knowledge that you already have. How you added an item with Control. So if you hold Control and click on a selected item, it will get removed. So it's not selected now. Now only the exterior walls are selected. So now I can go here and say that I would like to change this material to something else. This is the material library. I did not mention that, but besides styles, ARCHLine is coming with built-in material libraries, doors, and everything else. Now I'm working with the materials. I go back to the libraries, and you can see that there are several options, other sub-libraries where you can find these items. I know that there is a stone somewhere, but I don't know where, so I just use the search field and I hit enter, and then it will find everything with the name stone, and I will just use this one, for example. Stone decoration
should be good.
Yeah, so that's it over there, and now I will just quickly create a slab under this this whole building, and it comes with the slab tool. Now I can either manually click point by point, or I can use this slab by walls and click here, covering the whole building, and hit enter to quickly place a slab under this whole building. And now we can actually talk about the architectural items.
Yes,
let's
stay at this slab at the moment. So it was created with one click, recognizing all the wall shapes, and it actually copied the shape of the rooms of the load-bearing walls. But how do you define the outer shape? Let's say we want to have a balcony over there, or like a terrace.
Yeah, well, actually, you can. I could actually already created it by just clicking on at the points. But if I already have this, I can select it and see this counter appears here with corner points and sides or edges. That if I click on the edge, it comes with this list of options. So I just use offset, and I snap it to this corner point, and then I already have a small terrace. Or if I would like to do this in the 2D, I go back to the 2D, enlarge the 2D, and I click here, offset, and I move it here. So this way you can change the shape of an existing slab, wall, or nearly most of the things that you create, you can do the same thing.
What about ceilings? What about these kind of elements?
Well, ceiling is actually, there are two ways. There is a tool called ceiling. It's if I would have only one floor, I wouldn't create another floor. I just would create a ceiling and then I'm fine. But if it's a multi-story building, usually, and if it's not having like a, a suspended ceiling like this, then I just use the slab tool to create the following floor, and so on. And then actually I will copy this building part, make another floor. But before I do that, let me just quickly place a few doors and windows on this layout. Well, the doors are here, and again, it comes with a list of options, but usually we use the placing door option, which is very simple. Again, you just select the door type,
select the type,
and click on the wall, and move your mouse around and find the best opening direction, and if it fits, then you just click again, and then it's there. Now keep that in mind that there are several different styles for doors in partition wall and doors in load-bearing wall. What's the difference between them? Let's see, there is this door, and in load-bearing wall. If I move it here, see it's coming out of the wall. See that orange shape? It's like not inside the wall. Yes. And the reason to that is that because it fits best in the load-bearing wall, because it has an offset, like around 10 centimeters. So if I don't want to have that offset, this one, then I use it with a partition wall setting, and then it snaps to the side of the wall automatically. So I just do that, I click here, again, click here, click here, click here, click here. So I just literally quickly set up a few doors.
Naturally, you could position them by measurements. As you can see the blue nodes appearing, you can position them any way you want.
And also if you did not do that, but you would like to change that later, you can just simply select them and just type the distance, and it will change the distance. Or you can, the same way, you can change the size of the doors as well. So now we have these doors. Let's just create a few windows and there I will also create an opening. Let's say there is a window here. And again, here you can use the F5 key, F5 center, F5
so
right hand side,
to the
and
others,
so on. Yes.
End.
Yeah, so I just quickly add these, and I will keep that in mind that if I would like to change the size of them later, then I can do that, of course.
You mentioned an opening, so that means there are not going to be any door leaves. So how do you do that?
Actually, there are several ways, but the simplest way is that if you just simply use a door, let's just make a door appear here, and actually the normal opening is the easiest way. You just click here, set it up, and then it's over there. You can just click then on the side, and you can click on the node, and you can change the size, snap it to the other point, and so on. So this is how you do it. Now actually we have space for a staircase. So I will create a staircase. The staircase tool comes with predefined shapes. You can actually design your own stair shape as well, but mostly we work with these predefined shapes because that's the easiest way to create a staircase like that. So I know I would like to create a U-form staircase, so I just click here, 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 and I just snap it here. And see, now it's wider than the available space, but it's because the basic settings will automatically create a staircase with the width of the staircase in 1 meter. So if I just select it and I go to the details, I can see these parameters revealed. So if I would like to change the width of this staircase, which is here, I just type it 0.9, and this is the proper width. Then it changes it. But now I will have this open space here, and that's only because when I created this part and it was 2 meters. So I need to unlock this value if I would like to change it, and then I just type 1.8 here, and then I wait a little bit. The software recalculates this staircase, and now I have a different staircase, and I can just click OK, or I can, and this is an important point, I need to set up from which point to which point I would like to go to from the 0 level, for example. So now I know that the distance between the 2 floor levels should be 3 meters, so I just type it here, wait again a little bit, so the software recalculates the ergonomy, and sometimes these red values will appear, which means now it's exceeding the maximum ergonomic value for this staircase, but sometimes it happens that it's actually not the stair that I designed, it's a stair that it's already there, so I cannot do anything with that. I just set up the values that I measured or I can see on the design, and then I hit OK. So the software won't, you know, tie your hands and not allowing you to create something that is not ergonomic. It will create it, but it highlights that it's not ergonomic. And one another thing, that this staircase needs a railing. In that case, if you like to add it, there are again several ways. There's the railing tool, but you can also go to the settings of the staircase itself, and you can find this railing settings here, and then you can just turn on an existing style. Now again, you can build up your own railing styles. We do not cover that now. I just use a predefined stair railing, and I just use this steel profile now, and I hit OK, and the software automatically generates it. But if you would like to, you have all the freedom to generate and create all sort of staircase styles, railing styles using the railing tool. I will use this a little bit later. So now I have this here. Let me just open up and see what we have here. It's nice. We already have this first floor.
It's coming together pretty nicely. But let's put another story on it, because this is actually a 2-story family house. So how do we go about placing another story? Do we need to copy the wall layout, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, actually, I could draw the following floor, but yes, as you mentioned, the simplest way is that if I have something that repeats itself, at least partially, then it's easier to simply select it, and then at the left hand side you can see an option to copy objects to other floor. Now these are not necessarily only objects like stairs and chairs and things like that, but you can copy everything that is selected. You click here and then you select the first floor. The software comes with a predefined setting of 4 floors: basement, ground floor, first floor, and second floor. You can name them anyhow as you want, and but this is the basic setting.
As well.
And actually the floor management or the story management is here. This is the status bar that I mentioned at the beginning. If you click here on this button, you can see that there is the ground floor, the first floor, and so on. And there are constraints as well that you can change, and the software can react to these changes. Now, not to mention more some sophisticated things, but if, for example, we had this coordination meeting and we figured out that, well, this height of this floor should change to something else, like, I don't know, 3.3, then I just type this distance here, I make changes here, and I hit OK, and the software will adjust the walls automatically, because they are automatically, they are automatically constrained at the bottom and the top. You can work in another fashion, but this makes it the simplest to generate this content. And now that we have this extra level, we can customize it. There's one thing that I need to change here quickly, and that's the staircase. I don't want to have an additional staircase. So first things first, I go to the settings of this first floor stair symbol, and I just go to the support page, and I disable the 3D creation. I don't want to see the 3D body, I just would like to see the shape of it.
Why don't you just delete the whole thing?
If I would delete it, then the 2D symbol would also disappear, and I would like to see that 2D symbol. So I just disable the 3D option, and then I go to this first page, the second page, and there is this 2D representation, which I changed to no section line. It's just one staircase as it is. And then I go to the railing settings, and I don't want to see the railing itself as well floating in the air, so I just hit OK, and there is only one staircase with one railing, and there is the second symbol here. And if I swap between the floors, like here, this is the ground floor and this is the first floor, 2D is correct, 3D is correct. Now in the 3D there is only one problem, that we cannot use this there because there's no
hole in the slab.
There's no hole. Yeah, you can actually, you have several ways to solve this. One solution is that if you click on this side of this wall, using this quick selection menu, you can swap to the slab, and you can find in the slab local menu, this is the context menu that you can find here, you can find this, these tools, and this allow you to literally draw a hole somewhere. But there is an even easier way to do that. If you click on this staircase and you use its own local menu, in its own context menu, then you can use this, cut slabs above the stair. If you do that, the software will auto-solve this.
I assume you can fine tune if you want.
Yes, but like this is the minimal cut that it's necessary to be able to use this stair. But if you would like to have a larger opening, you can just go above, find this slab here. I click here, and I cycle to the slab, and I can see the slab contour, even the hole contour, and then I can click here, offset, move it to someplace else,
like with the,
and hit enter.
With the slab itself when we created the
yes,
terrace.
yes, and now I have this here. So one another thing here, let me just add a pole, you know, like a column. And that's again with the column tool. The column again comes with several predefined styles that you can also build up on your own. And then you can just use the F5 to cycle through these points, as you can see. And I would like to place this with its right top corner, referring to this point. I just keep my mouse here a little bit until these green lines appear, and then I can just place it here, and then I have the column, and I can repeat the same thing at the bottom floor. Or now I can actually just click here and copy this content to the ground floor as well.
Yes, you can copy. Yeah, that's right. Or you can just have it on one floor and have it extended above. But that's another setting.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens with roofs?
Yeah, let me open the following project, which actually has the same exact project, little changes around materials and a little bit of extension. Using the same tools, we just created this this following layout, changing a little bit of the settings of the walls and changing the layout itself. So now we can talk about the roofs. If you would like to create a roof, you will at least have two options to create a roof, the flat roof or the regular roof. Now if you would like to create a flat roof, we actually have a roof floor for that. And then here I can create the flat roof. This is this part appearing here at the top. This will have a regular roof, but this here should be covered with a flat roof. If I would like to see the floor below this one, to be able to, you know, refer to existing points of the drawing, then I can just go here, open up this quick menu, the jump menu, and then I can just click on this icon to turn on the visibility of this floor and click here, and then I can see this contour. So now if I use the slab tool, using this slab in sketch mode, then I can, you know, just click on the corners of this drawing. If I make a mistake here, like this here, I can just undo that. And I click here, and then now if I hit enter, the software closes the loop, and then I have this here. I can select it, I can make an offset to all of the edges to make something like this. Then I can click here, offset this until this point, offset this until this other wall here, and so on. So I can just customize it. And then if I would like to, I can also add some decoration profile all around using the interior sweep, and there's the sweep tool. With this one, I can select the surface, and I can click on the edges of this surface to design something like this. Will be a decoration profile following the contour of this slab here.
This is actually a very useful tool for other purposes as well. So basically you define a path through which a profile would be dragged.
Yeah.
If you have used SketchUp before, this is similar to what the Follow Me tool is doing there. So
kind of, yeah.
So you have to define one profile. What we are going to do now is that you said it's going to be a decoration profile. You set up the main dimensions, width and height. And this is not going to change the path itself, so the path is definite, and then you just add another profile to it.
And I also change the material, for example, and then I have it. I can also change the material here to fit this decoration, to have something like a rusty gray and so on. So I just keep going and make changes. Now I mentioned that I would like to show you something before I go to the following
I think that would have
flat
been
roof.
The roof itself on the other side of the.
Before I do that, let me just finish this part here as we work here on this area. I just would like to, I just would like to create a railing here. So I go back one floor down, and then I use the building railing, and again there is a built-in setting for this, and you can change. You can see the preview of that railing that you will actually create, and then you just click, enter, and the software will automatically create this here. And then again, you can change its design. You can go and find detailed settings, like here in the 2D or in the 3D. You can zoom in, select it, and go to the details to find out something that you would like to change.
Maybe the balustrades are too dense. So
yeah, or for example, I don't want to add these poles at the beginning and the end because it is supported by the wall, for example. Or yes, I can also remove this center line here and just. So these are just basic changes. You can do way more than this. It's just a simple example how you can customize the content that appears by default using ready-made styles. And now let's just go back to find and create a roof here. I just rotate it around so we can see its complex shape. And then I go back here. And now I will go to the roof floor. And here I will design a roof. Now roof comes with pretty much a lot of settings and options. But as you can see, these are all handy. You can just quickly create a gambrel, you can create an open gable, you can create all sorts of roofs by just setting up one command and just say that I would like to have a roof from here to here, and it automatically creates that. You can change its height, you can change its settings, and you can go with predefined styles. If you do not want to use this, but instead of that, you would like to create a roof with only one plane, you can do that as well. You can again draw it around.
So you
defining
first define
the
shape, and then you define the height values, right?
Yes, that's right. And then you can set up the first point and the second point, and see the arrow indicates the slope of this
This is gonna
roof.
slope upwards, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then you can set up the slope, the pitch, the angle of this roof as well. You can set up its base elevation. Now I think this should be something lower, like 0.5 or something like that. And then the software automatically creates
So now
that.
it's in relation to the floor on which you are, right? So it's
Yeah.
not to the project zero base level, but
Yes.
to the floor.
Yes, that's right. So because it is measured from this point, and that's only half a meter. If you would like to change that, you can further change it. You can select it either in the 2D or in the 3D, and you can say that, well, this should be something way lower, 0.1, or you can just graphically move it by moving this arrow here. But if it's done, you can actually get rid of these walls automatically. The default settings of the roof will automatically cut the walls if you go back to the 2D and you rebuild the 3D based on the current drawing settings. I just hit it.
A few words about
And the software
building up the
automatically removes
3D. So as you can see, every time you do something in ARCHLine, the software is going to do the changes both in 2D and 3D.
Yeah.
I mean the viewport. I mean in terms of the viewports.
Yeah.
There are some scenarios when it's not doing this automatically, and that's usually because of conserving resources. Because
Yeah.
these are the things that sometimes these changes are not necessary to track in real time. In
Yeah.
this kind of scenarios, you can manually rebuild the 3D. Just click on the 3D hammer, and your 3D is going to be refreshed.
Yeah, in
That's-
ARCHLine, the 3D rebuild and updates of the drawings are transactional. That means you get to decide when you would like to update them, and you don't have to accidentally wait, I don't know, like minutes just because you made a change that must be followed
Yes.
everywhere. You decide when you would like to do that. You just click on the 3D update button, and then it will automatically sort out every sort of details, and it will automatically regenerate the elevations and sections, which we will pretty much soon cover.
I see that there's an extension to that roof. So how
Yeah.
do we add that?
Yeah, well, actually for that, I again need to open up and enable the visibility of the first floor to see this detail, and then I can go here and click here and add a node here, and click here again and add another node here, and then I just move it someplace here, and so I just reshape it. I can again use values that I know the distance and so on, and I can reshape it in a way that I would like to do that.
That's right, perfect. Now we have pretty much all the structural elements that we wanted
Yes.
to add at this point, but now's the time when we talk about how to manage the project itself. So what kind of tips you can give us at this point?
Well, managing the project contains several things, and now I'm about to cover only one aspect of that, is how you can add more drawings and how you can sort those drawings all around, because now we have two contents the 2D and the 3D, and when I just would like to highlight the one, I just click on it and I enlarge it, I highlight the other one, I create another one. But if I create extra drawings like the section, for example, in that case I will go to the documentation part, create section, define section, set up the details. Now I just use the defaults, okay? And then I just, draw the section line from point to point, set up the view direction, and then I have an extra drawing. When I hit yes, then the software generates this basic layout. This is just a conceptual setting now. We did not set up details, so that's simple now. But as I further develop the model, it will automatically also detail. And now I have an extra drawing. So now if I click here, I will organize the content like this. I click here. This is already part of my project. This way I can shuffle my drawings in a way that it's easy to access, easy to manage. If I would like to create something like an elevation, for example, in that case I go to the project navigator and there is this elevation tool. This allows me to add an elevation to here, for example. Let's say I would like to create a northern elevation of this building. So I click here and say create a north elevation. Yes, create elevation view, and then I have an extra drawing again with its proper 2D symbol.
So it's automatically generated. You just click on it, and it's and it's created.
Yes, and from that point on, this is also part of this project. So now I have this elevation. I will have a second, third, fourth elevation, maybe second, third section, and so on. So this will be all managed in one single project. If I would like to change the visual style of this elevation, I can do that as well. I go here, here on this center button in this navigation bar, and I select the settings that I would like to use. I keep everything on basic now. I just use elevation shadow and I hit OK, and then the software generates this for me, and then I can use it, add extra details like dimensions and so on. For example, an elevation dimension, I just set up the 0, click here again, move it somewhere here, and then I just click and click.
Yes, we'll cover this in detail during the third show about documentation.
That's
right. But you touched upon an important topic, and that is visuals, because you already had the elevation shadows, and we talked about sections and this kind of documentation drawings. How do we go about adding some basic visuals? Because this is a conceptual phase, so we are not looking for very elaborate documentation, but what can we do at this point? Yes,
what I just do before that, I just quickly add select all the walls, and I actually use this tool here, the all walls, and I select the whole content, and I just put it over here, for example, so the software automatically measures everything. So I just have at least a minimal detail here, and then I can go and find the visuals by just simply opening up the 3D layout, and I then get to decide when I would like to create a visual style like this one. In that case, I go here and I find that, okay, this should be only colored. This should be like a hidden line removal drawing, or there's another popular option. It's a consistent color, which shows only on the pure surfaces without shading, and just the basic shadows appear here. Which I can set up. I can also change how the sunlight affects this building by just simply clicking here and finding the shadow simulation, and then I can just move the date and the time around and find something better, like for example this one, and then I can go here and find the rendering option to create a rendered visual. Now at this point I think I will load the final project.
Yes, because it already has the, I'm sure that I'm not revealing a big secret when I say that rendering is depending on two things. One is the lights you have set up, and the other is the materials and textures that you already set up in the project. So now we already have that covered in this version.
Yes, now we will only render for a few seconds, because rendering is very
heavy on the CPU.
Heavy on the CPU, and now we are using this computer for streaming the webinar, and we don't want that to break up.
We just give you a glimpse at how
we will just show you how that works. We won't finish rendering, so I just set up the view, the angle that from where I would like to make the render. I click here and I say, okay, create a rendering. You can decide to have a final render or the real-time draft, and then when you do that, you just set up the settings, you hit OK, and then the software generates the model and opens it up in the renderer. And then if you selected the real-time render, this will automatically synchronize the changes to the renderer, which will eventually appear in the rendering, which we won't cover now. We will do that in a later session.
Yes,
you will be able to generate rendered images that you can save as a JPEG file, and then you can also make it as part of your final design.
That's right. So that's how we got from the beginning to this stage. We are going to keep on elaborating this building during the other webinars that we are going to have in queue. Let's talk about the questions, right?
Yeah, we have a few.
We have a few, so let's cover them to see what we can take away from them. Okay, so there's a very important one here. Is height of the wall defined by default? Well, it has default, so all walls and all elements have default heights, which are stored in the style. So when you choose the relevant style, it comes with not only the materials and thickness, but also the height values. You can manually change the heights, and you can change the height of the wall and save it as another style, but you can do it individually. One important thing to point out here is that the structural elements are linked up together.
Yeah.
So the thing what you demonstrated before is that when you change the floor height, everything else complied with the changes. That means that you are not defining, in this scenario at least, the walls one by one. Instead, you just define that they have to be in connection with the slab above them.
Yeah.
You can unlink this connection, but it's usually in these kind of scenarios, it's better to keep them linked. That being said, you can manually define the walls and other elements as well, one by one.
Well, and there is one thing, especially for the users who use earlier versions of ARCHLine in 2017, 2016 or other versions, where this constraint worked a little different or it didn't exist. It's important to see that this is compatible backwards and forward. So whatever you did before, just keep doing the same thing. The software is intelligent enough to that when you change something, when you change the value, it will understand that if it was constrained, it will keep the constraint relative to the changes. So if you don't want to use the default values, just go with those values that you would like to. And I really encourage you to use the style system to save your own styles.
It just saves so much time.
Or if you already have them, just inherit them from the earlier versions of ARCHLine and keep going, working with them. It will work just brilliant all along.
That's right. Another question. In the 2017 version, we found by help content a manual for ARCHLine. Where can we find this in the 2018 version? You would be happy to hear that the 2018 manual is in the works, as far as I know.
Yes.
The interior, so we have separate topics, obviously. The interior design is the last thing I have seen, and it's in the works now. So it's being updated from the 2017.
And we are also shifting from a lot of written manual to more online content and videos. Our team is continuously working on new videos, not only webinars, but also tutorial videos covering several aspects of the software. And also, I think the greatest help, the quickest help that you can have in the 2018 is that if you move your mouse over a command, let's say to, for example, let's keep going with something easier like the wall tool here. It comes with this is what we call a tooltip, and with a little description of how you can use it. Or if the command is too complex to have a short description, it actually tells you what this tool is if the command itself is not just that much self-explanatory or something like that.
And also you can search for the keywords up here.
Yes.
As you remember. So this is what we wanted to cover at this point. What happens next time? So this Thursday, as you already know, at 3 p.m. Central European Time, we are going to have the next session, which is going to look at the very same project for the next stage. We look at how to import architectural and other external data. We talk about geodetic surveys, object libraries,
DWG
how
files.
to handle DWGs, how to turn two-dimensional drawings into three-dimensional ones. So it's going to be very exciting topics. So tune in for the next show.
Also sun access calculation.
Yeah, so there's a lot to cover. Hopefully we can squeeze that in.
Yeah, we will.
Great. Thank you very much for your attention. See you on Thursday, and until then, keep the questions coming to us.
Thank you for watching us. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.